All right, everybody, welcome to my channel, Therapist Talks. What I like to do is educate the community about various disorders, talk about kind of my scope of practice. I'm currently practicing in a private practice in Tacoma, Washington as a state designated mental health professional, also designated as a clinical supervisor. My master's degree is in forensic psychology and currently working on my doctorate degree. I've been in the field since 2011, so currently as of today, it's been about 13 years. I have quite a vast, I guess I would say an array of experience. I've worked in substance use, inpatient, outpatient facilities, developed methadone clinics, in the community with various doctors and high rated clinical professionals. I'm a nationally accredited addiction counselor through NADAC, NPCC, I believe it is. So I've just been doing the work. And what I like to do today is talk about bipolar II disorder. And I'm going to read from the psych database, evidence-based site. I just want to kind of talk about this. Some people, really don't know. There's a difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 is more of a manic state, more of a heightened state, grandiosity, that type of thing. Bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 has, I guess, a kind of a word that you can tell whether a person has 1 or 2, and that's DIGFAST, DIGFAST. And that means the person has high level of distractibility, indiscretion, grandiosity, a flight of ideas, increased activity, sleep decreased, and talkativeness. DIGFAST, distractibility, indiscretion, grandiosity, flight of ideas, activity increased, sleep decreased, and talkativeness. Distractibility is attention too easily drawn away to unimportant or irrelevant external stimuli. Indiscretion is characterized by excessive involvement in activities that have a high potential for painful consequences. Unrestrained buying sprees, sexual behaviors, or foolish business investments. Grandiosity is an inflated self-esteem. Flight of ideas is a subjective experience that thoughts are racing, right? Racing thoughts everywhere. Activity increasing, which is like goal directed, either socially or at work or sexually. Psychomotor agitation. Activity, we just read that. Sleep decreased, feels rested after only about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Talkativeness, more than usual pressure to kind of keep talking. Those are some of the symptoms that you can recognize that you have either bipolar 1 or bipolar 2 disorder. So I'm going to read straight from the website here. Bipolar 2 disorder is a mental disorder characterized by a clinical course of reoccurring mood episodes consisting of at least one major depressive episode and at least one hypomanic episode. The depressive episode must last at least 2 weeks, and the hypomanic episode must last at least for 4 days. The epidemiology. Bipolar 2 has a prevalence as bipolar 1 disorder with a prevalence of 0.8% in the United States and 3% internationally. So the prognosis is that although the definition of hypomania is less severe than mania in bipolar 1, the disability associated with bipolar 2 is actually is similar to that of bipolar 1. The economic burden of bipolar 2 is actually 4 times greater than that of bipolar 1 because individuals spend as much time symptomatic, but predominantly with depressive symptoms as those with bipolar 1. Typically, hypomanic episodes of bipolar 2 do not themselves cause impairment. Individuals with rapid cycling patterns typically have worse prognosis. Individuals who are married have high levels of education, have fewer years of illness, and they have better chance of recovery. The rates completed for suicides are also similar between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. 1 in 25 individuals will have completed suicide over a lifetime of the illness. Importantly, 1 of 3 individuals with bipolar 2 disorder report a lifetime history of suicide attempt, about as similar as bipolar 1. However, the lethality of attempts are actually higher in bipolar 2. And that's probably due to more of the depressive state, right? Individuals become more suicidal, have more suicidal ideations when they're depressed than they are hyper and happy, which is a manic or hypomanic state. Many individuals may experience several episodes of depression before their first hypomanic episode. So they'll be depressed more before they become manic or hypomanic. Hypomanic in bipolar 2, manic in bipolar 1. Between 5 to 15% of individuals with bipolar 2 will ultimately have a manic episode, which changes the diagnosis of bipolar 1. Let me read that again. Between 5 to 15% of individuals with bipolar 2 disorder will ultimately have a manic episode, which changes the diagnosis from bipolar 2 to bipolar 1. The comorbidity. 60% of individuals have 3 or more comorbid disorders, with anxiety disorders and substance use disorders being the highest. Comorbidity means a multiplicity, so 2 or 3 separate system issues going on. So we have substance use, they may have anxiety and substance use and bipolar 2 or something like that, right? You have more than one thing going on. They call it co-occurring disorders or comorbid disorders or just comorbidity. Approximately 40% of individuals have at least one lifetime diagnosis of an eating disorder, with binge eating disorder being more common than bulimia or anorexia nervosa. Risk factors. The risk for developing bipolar 2 is highest amongst relatives and individuals with bipolar 2 disorder. So if you have kids or grandkids, it's the risk of developing bipolar 2 is higher amongst your relatives. Genetic factors may also be involved. The DSM-5 diagnostic criteria, that is sort of like the Bible of diagnoses. Sorry, that may be backward. It says Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition. That's what DSM stands for. Criteria A. Criteria have been met for at least one hypomanic episode and at least one major depressive episode. Criteria B. That there has never been a manic episode. Manic episode is when you're just like increasingly, activity, grandiosity, like you just kind of can't bring yourself down. Criterion C, the occurrence of hypomanic episodes, okay. Manic episodes. So let's imagine a wavelength, right? That's hypomanic, right? Is the upswing, right? Hypomanic. Manic is way up here, down there, way up here, down there, way up here. Hypomanic is, okay, I'm not really going that high, right? I don't need to be taking the inpatient involuntarily to the crisis unit involuntarily because I'm so out of control of my behavior. It's so out there, like big me, little world. I can fly on top of the universe, right? Criterion C, the occurrence of hypomanic episodes of major depressive disorders is not better explained by, I would say the psychotic process disorders, right? So you're talking about schizophrenia, schizophreniform, delusional disorder, schizoaffective disorder, other specified or unspecified schizophrenia spectrum, or other psychotic disorders. So to have a diagnosis of, so in other words, you want to rule out those diagnoses to kind of find that bipolar 2 piece, or the 1, same thing. Criterion D, the symptoms of depression or the unpredictability caused by frequent alternation between periods of depression and hypomania. That's the cycle, right? You got the depression at the bottom, hypomania, depression, hypomania, but there's a baseline in the middle, right? And so you kind of go over that and under that baseline. Under is the depression, over is the sense of euphoria, like I can take on the world. increased goal-directed activities. The symptoms of depression are, the symptoms of depression or the unpredictability caused by the frequent alternation between periods of depression and hypomania cause clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or important areas of function. So these symptoms have to affect your daily life, right? Your daily living, right? Criterion A, once again, a distinct period of abnormally and persistent elevated, expansive, or irritable mood, and abnormally and persistently increased activity or energy lasting at least 4 consecutive days and present most of the day, nearly every day. So yeah, that's just something real quick about bipolar 2, right? And also, it kind of comes so mild. There's a specifier between, mild, moderate, or severe. You can look up more for that. But I just want to talk about that. I want to talk about, maybe some rapid cycling. I'll talk about more stuff here later on about this disorder. But, that's what we got about bipolar 2. For those that want to know more, you can look up one of these online, the DSM-5 Diagnostic Statistical Manual. As therapists, clinical therapists, that type of thing, working in a clinic as we do. And most all mental health professionals need to, who are diagnosing anyway, need to be able to utilize this pretty good. You need to have a working order of this because we understand that the codes could differentiate between whether a person's in partial remission, full remission, or actively psychotic, right? So with that, I just want to say, man, all praises to the Most High, man. Y'all have a beautiful day, man. It was great talking to you once again. And once again, this is Therapist Talks, man. I appreciate you, and it's good to see, hopefully, that you guys can see that there's somebody, that there's a black male in the field. I think we're like 3%. In America, the black population, African American population is therapists, and as a black male is even smaller. So to find me is like finding a diamond in the rough. Make sure that you come back and get some more of this good information. I appreciate y'all. Have a good one.